Howdy folks, and welcome back to War Thunder Ground Forces. It's more tank events on the live server. This is, as far as I've currently gotten down, the Soviet medium tank line. It's the T-34 1942 with, I think, the F-34 76mm gun. It's a good gun. It's 90mm of penetration at point blank range. That's a statistic I'm going to ask you to bear in mind for later on in this clip. Well, anyway, it's a single flag cap arcade battle here on the Cuban map, and I have long and bitter personal experience of being the guy to rush forward into the cap, capture the flag right at the beginning, and then just get annihilated because nobody on the team went out to secure the flanks. So this time, instead of being the one getting killed in the cap circle, I am going to be the one who goes out and secures the flanks. That's my plan anyway. These single flag cap arcade battles tend to be over relatively quickly, and it's usually the team that controls the flanks that wins, not the team that first gets into the cap. So I'm going to head out and try to control the flanks, or at least try to prevent the enemy from controlling the flanks. Give the guys in the cap circle some breathing space. Stop to take a pot shot at an anti-aircraft gun, but I'm not going to hang around for too long. I need to move. Get out onto the western flank here, and that's when I spot, it turns out he's an AI. But this is when I first noticed something that I haven't actually noticed before. If you look to the right of the crosshair, you'll see range to target, armor thickness, and angle of armor information appears in the crosshairs when you're in sniper mode. Okay, the T-26 is now officially somebody else's problem because an Su-122 just popped up on the left. Now, I got kind of lucky. My first shot wounded his commander, damaged his cannon breech. My second shot takes out his gunner and his driver and damages his ammo rack. Now he's not returning fire, probably because of a combination of problems to do with loading and firing his gun. I am taking some fire from that T-26, but at this range I am not worried about the T-26, so I concentrate on putting fire into this Su-122 because I really don't want this guy on my flank. And I'm pretty sure by now that he is not actually facing me. Otherwise, well, it's possible he is facing me, but I've done so much damage to his loading and firing mechanisms that he can't get his gun pointed at me. So I move in to close the distance, and I'm not watching where I'm going. I nearly flipped the tank on a set of rocks. There he is, bring it to a halt, a bit closer now. Bang, got him. Right, so about that flank. And there's that KV-1 I just spotted. And he is in a position to be putting flanking fire down on the guys in the cap circle, and that's exactly what I came down here for. Searching for a weak spot, damage his suspension. Now remember, my F-34 76mm gun has up to 90mm of penetration at point blank range. So I move up to get a better shot at that KV-1. That's what I came down here for after all. And that's when yet another AI reserve T-26 pops up, so I'd rather not be getting shot at by two tanks at once. So I back up so the KV-1 doesn't have a shot at me, and I work on finishing off this. Oh wow, did you see that bomber go down? That was impressive. So I'm trying to finish this T-26 off, scored a couple of hits, and then a wild KV-1 appears and takes matters out of my hands. My first shot takes his tracks off, wrecks his suspension. He's immobilized. I move to get around him. Go for the engine shot, but I only have 5 degrees of gun depression with this thing, and I'm actually too close to get a successful shot at his engine. Instead, I put one into his turret side, wrecks his horizontal turret drive. He now is immobilized and he can't turn the tank. Now, I have heard a lot of complaints being levelled at War Thunder Ground Forces in that it is just too arcadey in arcade mode. Well, if that's the problem, don't play it in arcade mode. And yet at the same time, as you're going to see here, there are some surprisingly complicated mechanics that are being taken into account, even in arcade mode. there are certain other arcade tank games that just don't take into account what gear you're in. And in low gear, I am finding it very, very difficult to exploit my superior maneuverability and get around this KV-1. Notice how he's now angled at a perfect 45 degrees, making it almost impossible, even with a 90mm penetration, to get through his 75mm of armour. I'm having to search for weak spots. And if I could generate enough speed in low gear to be able to get around him without letting him shoot at the side of the tank, I could shoot at his rear hull armour, which is only 70mm thick. But in order to do that with my 5 degrees of gun depression, I'd have to be about this far away from him, and now there's another KV-1 just popped up. And so I'm being forced to back off, and my initial target is still, even though he can't return fire, more or less completely safe from me. I just cannot penetrate 75mm of armour angled at 45 degrees. So, even though I wasn't able to kill that KV-1, I did accomplish the mission that I set for myself, which was to get down there on the flank and take the pressure off the guys who were in the cap and winning the game for us. So, mission accomplished. However, watching the replay of this match in particular taught me a couple of things about how War Thunder Ground Forces actually works. War Thunder in arcade mode is undeniably arcadey. That's why they call it arcade mode, but there is still a lot more going on, game mechanics wise, in the background than people at first realise. And another thing that this match showed me that I had not realised up until now was that while all of those one-shot kills look really impressive on a YouTube video, they're not nearly as important as far as XP and credits are concerned for getting lots and lots and lots of effective hits on target. There's a guy there with 5 kills. I only have 1 kill in that game, and I didn't come too far away from doubling his score. That's because of all of the critical hits that I was inflicting on the SU-122 and the KV-1. And I really can't stress how much of a deal breaker this is, because anybody who's played War Thunder in the air will be only too familiar with the situation where you're sitting on the tail of an enemy aircraft, scoring multiple critical hit after critical hit. The guy's going down, he has no control over his aircraft, he's about 4 seconds away from hitting the ground, and then somebody else swoops in at the last second, puts one burst of machine gun fire into him, and takes the kill off you. And I can't really overemphasize how welcome a change this is, because kills matter a lot in air combat in War Thunder. They seem to matter a lot more than just doing damage to enemy aircraft, and that makes sense. Kills matter in ground combat as well. That guy who got 5 kills, he probably didn't kill 5 tanks. He probably killed 2, maybe 3 enemy tanks, and a bunch of anti-aircraft guns, which don't offer much reward for killing. But doing lots and lots and lots of critical damage to enemy tanks definitely pays the bills. In a sense, it doesn't really matter who kills the enemy tanks, as long as the enemy tanks get killed. If you have done lots and lots of crits, you are going to be rewarded for the work that you have done in taking that tank out. If somebody else drives past and casually puts one into the side of his turret, detonates his ammo rack and finishes the tank off, it doesn't matter. That's a tank that is no longer shooting back at you or anybody else on your team. You've done a lot of damage to him, you're going to get rewarded appropriately, and I think this is a fantastic, very, very welcome change. Well, I guess it's time I gave the Germans a fair crack of the whip. I've been focusing almost exclusively, well, not almost exclusively, completely exclusively on the Russians so far, on the closed beta test live tank events. So this is my first ever game playing as the Germans, and I must apologise to Mr. Serge Batman over there. I've just set him on fire, and I figure, oh, okay, I may as well back off. He's burning away nicely. Let's not allow him to shoot back at me while he's busy dying. And there you go. My first kill in a German tank on the current War Thunder tank live events. Now, the Panzer IIc it's a kind of, well, it's the polar opposite of the T-26, which is the Russian reserve. The T-26 has a very good gun and terrible armour. It's just a terrible tank with a good gun. The Panzer IIc, on the other hand, is a pretty good tank, but the gun is pants. It really is terrible. Two Panzer IICs just can't penetrate each other from the front at point blank range. Certainly not with standard ammunition anyway. So anyway, got my first kill, and I don't want to hang around on that corner, because that corner is just a shooting gallery. It's where everybody queues up to die. And since this is my first ever game in the Germans, I want to farm as many XP and credits as I possibly can, so I'm not proud. I will go for easy kills on anti-aircraft guns, just to prop the score up a bit and get some more XP and credits. You don't, as you can see, get an awful lot for doing this, but they're there, I can kill them, and I just want to get out of reserve tanks as quickly as possible, so why the hell not? There we go. Okay, 3 AA guns. Cheap kills, but it all makes money. Heading down the flank here. Again, it's a single flag cap map, and the enemy team have capped. And I am only in a reserve tank, so I'm going to need to be careful. There's another AA gun, but I don't have a shot at him. Screw it. No. No, he's out of line of fire. So let's go. Let's look for more things to shoot at. It's difficult to get into the cap from this side unless you take a slightly circuitous route, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Sticking to the road exposes you to flanking fire from all the enemy reinforcements coming out of their spawn point. And then some targets pop up, and it's a T-26, and I can kill that. And it wasn't until after the battle, when I was actually reviewing this video at leisure, that I realised I just set on fire and killed Serge Batman again. And it's not going to be the last time. Serge, if you're watching this video, please accept my most sincere apologies. I hope, as it will be obvious from watching, that I was not going after you on purpose. You just happened to be there and in the right position for me to get a kill every time I came across you. Meanwhile, I've just damaged the suspension driving into a tank trap, and oh, where did he go? And there he is again. And he's gone again. And there he is again. And he's... what the... oh, there's a Stug. Ah, a Stug. That's... no, I don't want to be sitting here in front of a Stug. Not at that range. Not from the front. And not with the penetration of this 20mm autocannon. It's time for me to be somewhere else. Like, in the cap. Resetting it. And while the Panzer IIC is not a fantastic tank, I wouldn't have been able to take this route in something like a KV-1 or a Tiger, for example. Just wouldn't have had the engine power. It would have been too heavy to take that off-road over-hill route, and would have had to follow the road around and deal with all of those enemy reinforcements on the flank before I could get up here into the cap. So these little reserve tanks, they're not terribly good, but they do definitely have their uses. And there doesn't appear to be any enemy tanks up here, which is very welcome news. We've got some reinforcements in the shape of this T-28. That's nice. He's got a good gun. Oh, enemy tank. Okay, it's only a Panzer IIC. Got my front towards him. He's engaged with another friendly. I'll attempt... I don't want to leave the cap circle because we need to cap. We're losing. But if I can help out that guy in front of him, I will. Angling for a shot. All I'm going to get is his turret. Do a hit, and don't do actually... well, don't do any critical damage to him whatsoever. Checking my rear. Checking my front. There were a lot of enemy tanks coming from that direction. Getting very nervous here. Is that Panzer IIC gonna try his luck? I hope so, because I've got a T-28 with me. There he is. T28 is obviously... Oh, this is not good. This is not good at all. Well, they did time that well. The 2C driver waited for the Panzer III to crest the ridge, and then he rushed in. And he's taken my tracks out, he's killed my driver. The T28 missed him. He's doing exactly the right thing here. He's keeping me between him and the T28. He's presenting the front of his tank to me where I just can't penetrate him. He's all over me, and there is nothing I can do about this. So this was very, very well played by a guy in a reserve tank. And then, surprise butt sex from a Stug 3, who gets killed immediately for his efforts by the T28. But was it enough? I guess we'll soon find out. We haven't quite lost the cap yet, but we're definitely not winning it either. The cap flag is flashing, which looks like that Panzer 2C is still in there. Maori's begging for help. He's obviously being pressed hard. And then, you couldn't make this up, it's Surge again. Just when I needed cheering up, Surge appears and gives me the side of his tank for the third time. Surge, I am so sorry. I really wasn't doing it on purpose. Meanwhile, and I really can't praise this guy enough, that Panzer 2C driver who just humiliated me has also set the T28 on fire. And he's fighting that cap circle to his last breath. Unfortunately for him, the team have finally woken up to the fact that it's a good idea to capture the flag on a map where there's only one flag to capture. And he finally got taken out by a Panzer III. So he played a hell of a game. Now I'm going to try to get it back up into the cap myself in my second Panzer 2C. And this is something that the Panzer 2C is infinitely better at than the T26. The T26 is very much a terrible tank with a very, very good gun. And the Panzer 2C is the complete opposite. It's a really good little tank, but the gun sucks. But it is fast. And so I'm going to try to get back up into the cap. And just through weight of numbers, trying to get this game won. There it is. It's so close. Come on, Jingles. Get up there. Almost there. This is actually a false ridge. It's not the real hilltop. As you'll see when I get to the top, there's another ramp up there that I have to get up. Check my sides. Ah, crap. Another Panzer II. And if I hadn't been getting shot at from the rear, I would have ignored him and kept going up the ramp. But getting shot at from the rear, at the speed that you travel up that ramp, I would have just died. So instead, I've got to go and deal with this Panzer 2C, and then try to skirt around and get up into the cap from this side. Unfortunately, watching two Panzer IIs have a go at each other from point-blank range is a lot like watching old people have sex. It takes a really long time, and there is not a lot of penetration going on. And the enemy team have just dominated the cap again, and so, what you gonna do? Fun game though, even though we lost. Did have fun in that match. And somehow finished first on the team. Which probably explains why the team lost. A cheap anti-mech award there, which is another one of the reasons why if you do have a shot at an anti-aircraft gun, you should probably go for it, because it counts towards the award of prizes like that. It's the similar to the fighter award in aircraft. It's what you get for 5 kills. Some way towards researching my first Panzer III. Not a bad little game. A lot of fun to play. So that was War Thunder Ground Forces with the mighty Jingles. Hope you had fun, and I'll catch you next time.